All right, if you missed the lab, I'm going to go through it with you as an alternate assignment. First thing you're going to need to do, take observations of sodium iodide, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the sodium iodide, okay? Now, no odor, okay? Take a look at it. You should be able to get at least 3 more observations besides the one that I just gave you. And this is the sodium iodide. Here is the lead nitrate. Again, when I observe it for odor, there is none. Okay, you're looking at another sample that is very similar to the first. So make 3 observations based on what you're seeing in this video. Now, we're going to take and we're going to mix these together. For your lab, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to do 20 milliliters of sodium iodide with 10 milliliters of lead nitrate. Everybody did 10 milliliters of lead nitrate. I'm going to mix them together in this beaker. So I'm going to take and put my pipette in here. I'm going to pull up 10 milliliters of lead nitrate. I'm having a little problem here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to have to pause and hang on. I'll be back in 1 sec. Okay, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Now I have exactly 10 milliliters of sodium iodide, lead nitrate in this container. I'm going to put it into a beaker. I just hold this until it all goes into the beaker. All right, now I'm done with that. Next, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to add 20 milliliters of sodium iodide. Have a different container here. I'm going to take it, I'm going to pull up the solution until I have exactly 20 milliliters in here. Looking at the side, you would have done the same in class. Now that I have exactly 20 in here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take it, I'm going to add it, and you'll notice the color change immediately when we mix the two together, ladies and gentlemen. So these two clear solutions, ladies and gentlemen, have definitely caused a color change to occur. Definitely a chemical reaction, and we empty this all the way out. Let me get these out of the way, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now you need to make observations of this sample based on what you see here. Again, no odor. Tell me what color you see. There's some particles floating around in there, ladies and gentlemen. Now I am going to let this sit for the next few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Just going to let it sit, and we'll come back and pick up the video in just a minute. But before I do that, they took a piece of filter paper like this, ladies and gentlemen. They put it on a balance and they masked it. You will find it in the mass in your lab, in the container. I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it twice until it looks like a cone. Then we're going to take it and we're going to put it inside of a glass funnel, which is inside of a flask. And I'm going to wet it down. This is what I'm going to filter this substance through so that I can separate the precipitate from the liquid that is in there. So now I need to give this a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to let it sit for a few minutes, and then we will show you what to do next. So coming back in a second. Okay. We've now gotten to the point, ladies and gentlemen, where most of our yellow precipitate, the solid, has settled out to the bottom. That's our lead iodide. But there is still sodium nitrate solution in the water above. In this lab, we want to collect the mass of the dry precipitate. So to do that, we have to filter off the liquid that is above it. So we're going to do a process called decanting. So what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to carefully take and pour this into the filter paper, but I am only going to try to pour off the liquid on the top. When I start to see some of that solid from the bottom moving toward the top, I'm going to stop. Now, the filter paper should catch the solid so that it doesn't drip down through. But if I overload it with all that solid, it won't drain very quickly. So I'm going to let that keep going, draining through the filter paper. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rinse a little bit of water in here. Now, the reason I'm doing that, ladies and gentlemen, is yes, I'm putting water in there, but my job is to get rid of the sodium nitrate ions that are still in the water. So by adding a little water, it'll make them dissolve into the water a little bit more. Then when I get rid of that water in a second, by doing more of this filtering, I'm going to be getting more dry precipitate. In the lab, we did this 2 or 3 times where we rinsed down what we call our precipitate. We added water to it so that we would take the ions, the sodium nitrate that was in there, dilute it into the water, and dump it through the filter paper. Now again, the filter paper, I'm still starting to catch the silver or the yellow precipitate in here. Why? Because I need that. That's what I'm trying to measure. So in the end, I'm going to have some left in the bottom of this beaker, and I'm going to have some in here. When I've got most of the water out of here, and after I've rinsed this a few times, I'm going to throw the filter paper in with the beaker. I'm going to put it in a drying oven overnight, and I will show you what the residue looks like tomorrow after it has dried overnight. So right now I'm letting this filter through. I'm getting the water separating from the precipitate again. In a minute, I'm going to rinse it again. So again, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take and pour it into the filter paper, trying to get just the water, not a lot of the solid. When I see the solid start to move toward the edge, I tip it back up. Filter paper is going to catch the water. Our filter paper is going to catch the solid. The water and the sodium nitrate is going to drip on through. And I rinse this down one more time, and that'll be my final rinse. So I'm going to stop here. I will finish rinsing this. I'll show you what it looks like before I throw it in the drying oven overnight, and then I'll show you what it looks like tomorrow. But in the actual lab, ladies and gentlemen, where you're watching this video from, I already have the mass of the beaker in there. I have the mass of the filter paper in there. Tomorrow, I will put in the mass of all of this dry, the filter paper, the beaker, the precipitate. You will have to subtract the filter paper, the beaker, and the precipitate, minus the mass of the beaker that we took at the start, minus the mass of the filter paper, so that we get just the mass of the precipitate. That is what we're doing here. Okay? So I'm going to stop the video. I'll come back when I'm ready to show you what it looks like right before it goes in the drying oven. All right. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All of the liquid has gone through the filter paper. I take it out. I'm going to put it into the container with my precipitate that's sitting in the bottom. I will rinse this out in the sink. This will be ready to use for another class. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put this in a drying oven overnight. Tomorrow I'll take a video, show you what it looks like. But here's what it looks like before it's going in, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And then tomorrow it'll be all dried. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll take and get that final mass. I'll put it in the lab for you. And then you'll be able to do the rest of the lab based on everything that I have given you in this video. So till tomorrow when I have the dry sample, talk to you later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now the next day. I've taken the sample out of the drying oven. You can see that it is completely dry. The filter paper is dry. So now we're going to take and find the mass of this, and that is the mass of the precipitate. Now the important thing in this calculation is I only want the mass of the precipitate. So yesterday we took the mass of the beaker empty. We took the mass of the filter paper. We now are going to get the mass of everything together. So then we're going to have to subtract the mass of the beaker and the mass of the filter paper to find just the mass of the solid substance. Now, again, when you look at it, you can see what it looks like. Okay. No odor from it. Touch it. It feels dusty kind of. Okay. So you should be able to get your observations of this to do the final part of your lab. Make sure you get all your calculations done. Make sure if you have any questions, you see me. But you should now be able to finish the lab as you have all of the information you need from watching this video. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Get it done. Get it turned in.